My oldest is actually in town and will be helping me. We have a menu planned including roasted spatchcock chicken, a fire-roasted tomato bisque with tomatoes right from our garden, watermelon cucumber salad with feta, and baked peaches for dessert. So it should be a great meal tonight. Why did I choose these particular recipes for this weekend's dinner? Well, first, if we use a whole chicken, we actually get to save money over using quartered or otherwise pieced apart chicken breasts, and we'll have leftovers to use for enchiladas later in the week. The tomatoes are coming straight from our garden and will really take our bisque to the next level. And watermelon's on sale, so we'll not only use it for tonight's salad, but it will also be used for agua fresca to go with those enchiladas later in the week. I'll include the recipes in the description below. Timing is really important when you're making a multi-dish meal, so let's dive in and start the preparation right now. All right, so let's talk about what we're doing with this chicken. So we're going to do a technique here called spatchcocking, and we're also going to set it up for a dry brine overnight. If you like to do a wet brine, you be you, but I like a dry brine because it is less to clean up, and I think it really adds a lot to the flavor. It's also a lot easier. To do this today, we're going to need a pair of kitchen shears. You could also use a sharp knife or even just a really heavy pair of scissors. That'll do the trick as well. We'll need some olive oil. We'll need some spices. I'll include a spice recipe in the description, but we also use commercial poultry seasoning. That's what we'll use today, and a little bit of baking soda to dry up and crisp up the skin. So to prepare this bird, I have drained it from its packaging, dried it off so it's actually pretty dry right now. And we are going to do something quite horrible to it. So we are going to cut all the way up the length of the bird on either side of the spine so that we can flatten the bird out. First, we're going to cut along either side of the spine with our shears, going all the way up through the bird to the very top. And if this reminds you of a scene from the movie Predator where they're taking trophies, that's exactly what we're doing here. Once we have the spine cut out, we will save this off and use it for chicken stock later on. So we'll just leave that right there for now. You can see now we have the open inside of the chicken. We need to take a sharp knife, or in this case the shears, and cut right down just score the breastbone a little bit, so that way we can flatten out the bird. Now that we have this split open, we need to dry it out a little bit inside. Spray it with a little olive oil. Just rub it around, and we'll use a little bit of our favorite rub all over the inside. So we want that to really get in and penetrate the meat while it's resting overnight. And once that's done, we're going to flip our bird over. We're going to press down on all sides just to open it up and really flatten it out and tuck the legs in tightly. So now that we've got the chicken flipped over, it's actually time to prepare the skin. So right now we want to do this, we want to keep it dry. We want to sprinkle baking soda all over the skin. This is going to really ensure that it dries out and becomes very crispy, which is exactly what we want. We just kind of rub it in a little bit. And we also need to get under the skin, spray a little bit of olive oil in under the skin wherever we can, and then we're going to add as much of the rub as we can into the skin underneath the skin in between the meat. I'll record the narrative on this. And to do that, we're just basically going to jam it in there with our fingers. Make sure we get everything covered. Same on this side. Get down into the actual legs themselves as well as the thighs. And then well up under the breasts. As far as we can make it go. As it rests, it will then transfer all of that flavor into the meat. The salt will help it distribute throughout the bird. And that's really all we have to do at this point for this bird to prepare it overnight. We're going to let this sit in the refrigerator. We're going to cover up any meat, exposed meat with skin, and then we will let this rest overnight until we're ready to cook tomorrow morning. Well, we're out here at my smoker, which is going to be really useful for tonight's meal for both the bisque and the chicken. However, if you have an oven and not a smoker, that's okay. You can use your oven for this exact same cook. Just use the same temperatures that I'm laying out for you now. So to get our smoker going, this is one of those Kamado smokers. We're going to load it up with some more charcoal. So we'll use a little starter here, which is a combination of straw and paraffin wax, but there's lots of ways to start a charcoal grill. And we use lump charcoal, which just heats better and more evenly. We'll get that lit up and started. Place charcoal on top and get this fire going. We're going to set this grill, the smoker, to 375 degrees, which will give us a nice roasting temperature for all of our dishes tonight, and then we'll increase it when it's time to do the chicken up to 425. And that's all we need for this step. To save ourselves some video time, I've prepared these ingredients and we'll just look at them all at once. We're going to first start with tomatoes, mostly from my garden, onions and garlic. Those are going to go into the roasting pan and be roasted over the next hour. And then we'll use the rest of the ingredients really to flavor the soup base. We'll use some tomato paste, roasted red peppers that are just in a jar, oregano, thyme, some sun-dried tomatoes that are minced up, garlic, carrots, celery. Then we're going to top it with garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, a little cayenne for some zip, salt, pepper, and a little sugar just to help offset some of the acidity. We're ready to start roasting our tomatoes for the bisque. We're really just going to coat them in olive oil. This will keep them from burning too much. The onions in there, and also the garlic. We're going to do a little bit of a salt and pepper, just a little. Toss it one more time. And we're going to really just put it in this roasting pan and move it outside. Now we need to get these on the smoker. We're going to let these cook at about 375 for an hour, just to really soften them up and get that nice smoky flavor in. We'll see you in about an hour. Now that we've finished roasting our tomatoes and our onions, it's actually time to get the rest of the veggies sauteed. I've got 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the pot, and I'm going to add to that the carrots and celery. We're just going to let those cook down and soften a little bit. And then once that's done, we're going to add to it our sun-dried tomatoes, herbs, red peppers, some tomato paste, and then all of the contents from the grill when we were roasting the tomatoes and onions. At this point, we'll go ahead and put our herbs in and our sun-dried tomatoes so they can soften up. Then once that's done, we'll add our seasonings and the rest of the veggies. Spreading our roasted red peppers. All of our tomatoes and garlic and onion. We use parchment paper to line the pan to keep the mess to a minimum in the pan and easier to clean up. Spices. And some tomato paste for color and to just bring out that bright tomato flavor. Oops, get all this in. Toss it together. And we'll add some liquid and seal up this broth to pressure cook for 8 minutes, followed by natural pressure release so that it takes its time coming down from temperature. You can also do this on the stove top by bringing all this to a boil and then reducing the temperature to a simmer for 30 minutes or so. You may choose different aromatics, but I like to use shallot, onion to line the bottom of my pan, and then add really kind of a mirepoix with carrots and celery. I had some mushrooms left over, so we're throwing that in, and then herb it up with some parsley, a little rosemary, some thyme, and then finally finish it with lemon, and that will really make that base layer that the chicken will set on top of. Now we have to get the chicken into roast, and so we're going to start by putting down a layer of aromatics. As I said before, aromatics are really up to you what you like to use. I prefer to use a variety of different vegetables. They're going to give a little bit of insulation for the chicken, as well as add flavor. We're going to drizzle in a little bit of olive oil. That'll just kind of help keep everything from burning too much. We're going to put in some salt and pepper. And just toss this together. So eventually, some of this will go into the pan drippings as well. But for now, its main job is to make sure that our chicken is flavorful and that it doesn't burn. So we'll lay down a couple of lemon slices out of this. Toss in the rest of the veggies. Lay everything out in a nice layer. Then we're going to take this nice flattened spatchcock chicken and put it right on top, making sure that everything's tucked in nice and tight, no meat is exposed, and then we will walk that out to the grill. All we have to do is get this back on the smoker. We raised the temperature to about 400 and 425 degrees. Drop this right in the middle. One thing about these smokers is that by using the upper level, and that's where we put the food, it actually matches up with what you see on the little dome temperature here. So that'll keep everything nice and toasty. We'll let this run for about 25 minutes. Then we'll come back and start checking the temperature. We're looking for 170 degrees inside the thigh. For watermelon cucumber salad, we're going to actually start with the watermelon. One way to tell if it's ripe or not, obviously if it's a little firm, but you can hear it kind of hollow sounding. And we really like it when it's got this little bit of yellow on it. That really shows that it's peak ripeness and ready to eat. So we're just going to cube this up for our salad. Watermelon's so easy to work with. So versatile. When you're working with cucumbers for this dish, it's best really to remove the seeds. I just cut it lengthwise, and then I just take a spoon and I just very simply scrape out the seeds from the middle. It just improves the texture, doesn't really affect flavor. To assemble this salad, we've put the watermelon in, we've de-seeded all the cucumbers, added them to the bowl. We're going to toss in some mint right now, and then we're going to top the whole thing with a mix of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and some lime that I'm going to squeeze into it right now. And we'll move that over and toss it, and then we're ready to go in the refrigerator until it's dinner time. Soup is ready. Now we just need to blend it. You can put this in a regular blender. In this case, I happen to have one of these stick blenders. So we're just going to use that to bring everything together. Thicken it all up to make it a nice, even consistency. And while we're doing that, I've tempered a little cream by putting a little bit of the hot broth in it. We're just going to drizzle that in real slowly while we're blending. I also added some shaved Parmesan, and then we can adjust for salt and whatever flavors we want. You can see how beautiful that looks now. We're just really kind of in the home stretch now. I'm doing a little bit of garnish for the bisque. We're going to take some basil leaves, roll them up, and then we really just julienne them. We just cut them in real thin strips. This is a pretty common way to do it now, but it makes it so easy. And everything is nicely set up and shredded and ready to go into the soup. The chicken's basically done. I think I'm going to put it under the broiler for a few minutes. Skin didn't quite get as brown as I like, but it's actually internal temperature is perfect. We want to just make sure it's not going to, essentially be too dry. Now it's time for pan sauce. I really just took the drippings from the pan with the chicken, put it in here. I pulled out all the veggies and put them into this blender right here. If we pan up and take a look, we'll blend this up, return it back in here, let this really reduce. We're going to bring the temperature down that it's boiling and let this reduce a little bit till it gets nice and thick. And we'll be ready to serve it on top of our chicken while it rests. To finish this off, let's work on an easy dessert. You can make baked peaches just in the residual heat of the smoker as it cools down, or in a 375-degree oven. Set up peach halves and top up with butter, sweetener, cinnamon, and a pinch of cayenne for zip. Bake for 8 to 12 minutes and then top with whipped cream or your favorite ice cream. Time to sit down as a family to enjoy this meal. Please join us and stay tuned for more great family meals. Happy Sunday, everyone.